Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. And so the phony outrage train has made another stop, this time at a familiar station, Dave Chappelle. Now, before I go any further, let me say this. For the short bus ADHD lead paint slurping trolls out there, I am not endorsing Dave Chappelle. He's a celebrity, and you know how I feel about them. Also, Dave Chappelle has said some stupid stuff on more than one occasion. While it's good that he often afflicts the comfortable, that doesn't make a saint out of a sinner. When Dave Chappelle speaks, he's mostly speaking for himself, and we should have no confusion about that. It's a shame that I have to put little disclaimers like that before things, but you have the trolls and you also have the short bus contingent who come here, and some of them occasionally will make some feeble attempt at a gotcha and say, "Ooh, Professor Truth, how come you big up in Dave Chappelle? Oh, you must I thought you said something wrong with celebrities," so you gotta make sure you put that in there. Not that it stops all of them, but it's very gratifying when you got some fool who thinks that he's going to catch you with your own words, and then you show him that they don't listen very well. So I do not give any endorsement of Dave Chappelle. The problem, however, is that, like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, when the white media attacks a black person, they do it as a proxy for the black community as a whole. Dave Chappelle was hosting Saturday Night Live this last week. No, that show hasn't been canceled, thank you for asking. He took on a number of subjects during his monologue. Of course, he brought up Kanye and antisemitism head on. His monologue had the expected laugh lines in it, but Chappelle made some serious points too. He started off by saying that he stands with the Jewish community in solidarity with them, and that anti-Semitism is wrong no matter what form it takes. And then the monologue got deeper. He said that when he first got to Hollywood, he noticed that there were a lot of Jews in the industry. A lot, as he put it. Chappelle then added that there's lots of black people in Ferguson too, but that doesn't mean we run the place. The audience really liked that one. So Dave Chappelle began his monologue by expressing solidarity with the Jewish community. And then he knocks the stereotype that Jews run Hollywood by directly comparing the Jewish community to the black community, saying that both of these communities may have a presence in their particular places, but that doesn't mean that they control those places. Chappelle went overboard and bent over backwards to be as unifying as possible. Who could possibly have a problem with any of the things that he said? He moved on to the clear silliness of the phony outrage about Kyrie Irving and the NBA's absurd list of demands for him to be allowed to play in the NBA again. And then he said that the Jewish community cannot blame what's happened to them in Europe or elsewhere on black people in the United States. That wasn't said as a joke. And what about that statement is untrue? Were the Nazis black Americans? Were the Arabs who launched wars against Israel, were they black Americans? What happened in the Middle East or in Europe that was the result of anything that black Americans did? And it's important to bring that point up because there's a lot of anti-black propaganda that gets pushed that tries to make some sort of phony connection between the Nazis and the black community, as if somehow there's roving gangs of black people assaulting Jewish citizens or something, as if the persecution that Jews suffered in Europe is somehow continuing in the United States and it's black people who are doing it. Dave Chappelle used the moment that he had in the spotlight to call that out for the lie that it is. Nothing could be further from the truth. No black person in the U.S. has ever promoted any blood libel stuff. There's no black people pushing any Nuremberg laws or organized mass vandalism of Jewish shops in black neighborhoods. There's no roving gangs of black people looking for Jewish people to attack. It's a good thing that Dave Chappelle pointed this out. I give Chappelle credit when he says the facts, regardless of whose behalf he's saying it on. But you can guess that the predictable outrage wasn't far behind after that. The ADL was back on Twitter claiming that Chappelle is promoting anti-Semitism. Now they're saying Chappelle's promoting it now. So we've gone from Kanye West being understandably called out for what he said, to Kyrie Irving, who's being dragged for not having said anything at all, to now Dave Chappelle being called an anti-Semite because he expressed solidarity with the Jewish community. So for a black man to say that black people didn't have any part in the historical mistreatment of the Jewish people is anti-Semitic, because that's what the ADL is basically saying. You know, the old litmus test that they used to subject black people to, especially black politicians, is you gotta denounce Louis Farrakhan. More recently, the new litmus test was to denounce Kyrie Irving, but apparently now it appears the new one's going to be to denounce Dave Chappelle. And I'm sure it wasn't lost on anyone how Chappelle said that Kanye got into so much trouble he got Kyrie Irving in trouble. Kyrie Irving never said one anti-Semitic word or committed one anti-Semitic act. In fact, he didn't say or do anything. Somebody just decided they didn't like what was in his Amazon account. As I pointed out last night, if we're going to get angry about bigoted and racist material on Amazon, then when do the people screaming at Kyrie Irving want to get started removing trash like the jazz singer from Amazon.com? Because that movie's being sold on Amazon right now, and nobody has said boo about it. Chappelle made it clear that Kanye had definitely made a mistake with what he said, but that Kyrie Irving had done nothing wrong, and that these demands by the NBA, which are meant to do nothing other than humiliate Kyrie Irving for no reason, are an example of this society deciding that black men need to be publicly flogged and emasculated and scolded every chance possible. I'm sure Chappelle can identify with what's happening to Kyrie Irving. Some of the same media figures who tried to destroy Chappelle's career years back are some of the exact same people trying to frame Kyrie Irving as being an anti-Semite. You can tell when someone genuinely wants to reach an understanding with you as opposed to someone who just wants to see if they can make you beg and grovel. So with these new attacks on Chappelle, it's clear that this isn't about someone making anti-Semitic remarks because Chappelle didn't make any anti-Semitic remarks. He did a basic, lukewarm comedy routine, the same kind he's been doing for 35 years. He defended Jewish people. He said he stands with them, and he compared Jewish people to black people. How much more unifying do you want him to be? Because I've never seen Jonathan Greenblatt make any sort of comparison between black people and Jews, especially when it comes to being mistreated. Mr. Greenblatt speaks exclusively to the Jewish experience, and the black experience never gets brought into consideration by him. When people like Sarah Silverman or Ben Shapiro or other individuals mock the black community or actually cheerlead and justify the murder of George Floyd as Ben Shapiro did, I have yet to see Jonathan Greenblatt denounce any of them or to say that he stands with the black community. He doesn't say anything. Judging by his comments, Greenblatt seems to think that Dave Chappelle should have condemned Kyrie Irving. But in order to do that, Kyrie Irving would have had to say or do something that required condemnation. And how does anyone pretend that they're angry with Dave Chappelle, who's doing the same shtick that he's been doing for 35 years? The same ethnic humor that he's always done. Nothing's new about his material. Perhaps the concern is someone seems worried that Dave Chappelle isn't joining in with piling on Kanye and Kyrie, and that apparently this might be a signal to other people that they don't have to follow suit as well. Well, you know, as black people, whenever we call people out for anti-black racism, we are constantly told that that's not what happened. It's a First Amendment issue. Black people are hypersensitive, and black people need to stop saying racism so much because it's going to lose its meaning. It doesn't have any meaning anymore because black people use it all the time. That's what we're told. When you see black people being gunned down in cold blood, you see black people who are being sadistically murdered by the police and even by private citizens. As black people, we're not supposed to call that racism because that means we're overusing the word. We're accusing people of racism in circumstances where it doesn't even apply, etc., etc. Former right-wing nut Bill Bennett went on his radio show and he floated the idea that aborting every black baby in America would be a good way to reduce crime. That was a clear call for genocide. And yet, instead of Bennett being kicked off the air, instead of him being dragged, next thing you know, you look up and he's right back on NBC with Tim Russert of all people. So obviously, calling for the mass genocide of black people didn't hurt Bill Bennett one iota. As black people, we know what genuine hate speech is. And we also understand when somebody is trying to fight a proxy war against us and keep up a steady drumbeat. If Mr. Greenblatt really is concerned about building a better country and a better world, and he's really concerned about the proliferation of racially hostile media material being sold online, then I sincerely hope that he has a few choice words about the jazz singer and other anti-black material that's on Amazon. Because you can't have it where it's a safe haven for anti-black racism, but claim that you yourself are against discrimination and hatred in all its forms. Greenblatt said that we shouldn't expect Dave Chappelle to serve as society's moral compass. And you know what? I agree with Greenblatt. He's right. Dave Chappelle should not serve as society's moral compass, and that's the reason why Dave Chappelle never said that he does. The problem happens to be that Mr. Greenblatt is not providing any sort of alternative. We get a lot more straight talk and a lot more accuracy from Dave Chappelle than we do from Jonathan Greenblatt. So rather than being angry at Dave Chappelle for giving a monologue, Mr. Greenblatt needs to look at himself and ask how he can become more relevant. He can start by not accusing people of antisemitism where it doesn't apply. And that's no joke. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Cloudwalker Z, Sakina Collins, Chaz, Carmen Logan, and Quincy X. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.